Hey guys, and welcome to episode 2 of After School with Mr. Van Huss. Today I'm talking to my friend, singer-songwriter Roberta Lea. She just put out her debut album last week, and she's got a lot of really incredible things to say, so listen up. So welcome to After School with Mr. Van Huss. Roberta, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Just for anybody that may not be watching or that may be watching that may not know what it is that you do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, in layman's terms, I'm a singer-songwriter, independent artist, and I've been doing music full time for the past 2.5, coming up on 3 years.
Awesome. So what influenced you to do what you do?
So for me, music has always been a itch that I had to scratch. As we were talking, you kind of mentioned earlier, but I was always doing music. When I was in elementary school, play the violin, and get to college, and I learned how to play the piano and the guitar, and then I started writing songs, and it was just always something that I always found myself doing. But I did not have enough exposure to the possibilities of pursuing it. And so I just kind of followed the beaten path. I went to college, got my degree, and started in teaching. And at some point, I decided that I was ready to roll the dice and take a risk to see what doing a music career would actually look like. And that dice roll was in 2021 during the pandemic.
Which was a great time to make a change in anything.
Yeah,
Now, what
absolutely.
did you teach when you were teaching?
I was teaching Spanish in high school.
All right,
I was
very
teaching
cool.
Spanish in high school, so about ninth, 10th grade. And I absolutely loved it. I taught at Booker T. I taught at Lake Taylor High School. I absolutely loved it. Loved my students. And so the pandemic definitely rained on the parade as a teacher because that's when we went virtual. And there's the dynamics were totally different. I being a Spanish teacher, like I got to be the fun teacher. I got to do what I wanted and do games and movies and parties and anything that my little heart's desired because I didn't have that kind of pressure on me to perform as far as state standards were concerned. And so I had a lot of freedom, and that freedom needed the energy of my students' presence. So when the pandemic happened and we were on virtual, and a lot of kids didn't have their cameras on, they weren't required to, for several different reasons, so I couldn't see their faces. They usually get a Spanish name, right? So you you know them by their Spanish names, but the fact that you don't get to connect with them on that level makes it feel all the more distant. Like I don't see your face. I don't use your real name on a regular basis, right? And there was just this disconnect that really hurt. It was really hard to navigate that. But at the same time, my husband and I had talked about me doing music for a little while, and I felt like, okay, well, this might be a bit easier to bow out gracefully when there was so much uncertainty to begin with. And so that's when we decided to make that pivot.
That's great. I think everybody who was a teacher during the pandemic can relate to the black Zoom screens,
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
hard that was to deal with. I've always kind of compared teaching and being an entertainer. There's so much similarity between the two jobs. And
Yeah.
if you don't have that crowd to feed off of, it's a totally different world.
It is. It is.
So before you got into singing, who were some of your heroes in the field?
Let's see. Mm, I would have to say, so I was an 80s baby, 90s kid. So my parents would listen to the 80s, Anita Baker, Roberta Flack, etc. Right. And then as a 90s kid, I had TLC and SWV. All the girl groups were starting to like really like hold it down on the charts at that time. Um, Babyface as a songwriter, it was extremely inspirational for me. The greats like Tracy Chapman, Shania Twain, um, Bill Withers. I would say those are like my top three. And then there was just a plethora of influences that kind of swelled as I as I was growing up, because I had my parents listened to like old school R&B, jazz, and gospel, but then one sister listened to Alanis Morissette and like Jewel and Sheryl Crow, and then my other sister listened to like Tupac and Trina. So there was just a lot. There was a lot of mix when it came to the music I grew up on, and that's kind of that influences me to this day.
That's great. That's a lot of good influences right there.
Yeah.
What was high school like for you, and what further education did you do?
High school. Okay, so you're taking it back.
We're going way back here for a second.
We're going way back. High school was great. High school was great. I was very involved in high school. I was very I guess if you use the word popular, I don't want to use it in the way that most people associate with it, which is like the really popular girl, but I was in all sorts of circles. Like I had friends everywhere. And I got at the end of our in senior year during high school superlatives, where you have the most popular and the most athletic. I was the friendliest. Everyone voted me the friendliest in high school. I was just friends with everybody. I was extremely involved with my class, with the different clubs and activities after school, sports, everything. Everything everywhere practically. And so my high school experiences was extremely well rounded, and it played a huge role in even now. A couple of my old classmates came out to a concert just a few weeks ago. So that was incredible, and I rolled right into Virginia Wesleyan College after I got done with high school. And that was just getting into the college life. And I got a job as an RA, residential assistant. And I was just, again, I was a little bit of everywhere too, because I became an RA, but I also worked at the Rock Wall. I was working in the gym. I was, and so my entire youthful experience was just full of very well-rounded experiences. Like I just made sure I got my feet everywhere I could.
I was an RA too. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I love that in college. Did you have a favorite teacher along the way that maybe kind of inspired you or was a good mentor for you?
Yeah. The very first teacher that comes to mind is Miss Reek. She was our history teacher. And she really set the bar. She really set the bar. She had us hooked on a lot of different. She went so far as to acting one time, and she would have us fooled because we really thought something was seriously wrong. She would act out this the fact she pretended that she was accused of cheating and on the SOLs. After we took our SOLs, she was like, they're saying that you guys cheated and that they're going to fire me and I'm going to lose my job. And we're in there crying. Okay? We're like, no, but she used that to teach us a lesson on communism and Marxism at the time, and US history, where they were randomly accusing people and jailing people falsely. And so she just had that impact. I'll never forget doing the electric slide in the middle of her room. She just had the disco ball and we did the electric slide. So she was extremely inspirational for me as a teacher, to just have fun with the lesson, get creative, and make it relatable.
That's amazing. Hopefully I'll have a number of students watching this, some current, some former. So you've got the ear of a group of teenagers, a group of people in their early 20s. What is one life lesson that you would pass on to them today?
The biggest lesson that I have learned in the past year is that life is one big cycle. It is the same thing, just about, I would call it every 10 years. Every 10 years, you're going to go on repeat, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we're supposed to do is learn our lessons from the cycle before to apply them to the new cycle that you get into. So when you're in high school, for example, between 10 and 20 years old, you're in middle school, high school, you're learning about yourself, you're learning about your friends, you're learning about how you operate in this world. And there are going to be some conflicts and there are going to be some blessings that kind of come along the way. So you're supposed to understand, okay, why was I the mean girl? Was I wrong in that situation, or should I have done things differently? That's your whole practice scene is 10 to 20. You're practicing. When you get to your 20s, you're going to get into the new world again. And now you're going to be at your job. You're going to be an employer. You're going to be a coworker. Those same little habits or those same little attitudes or those same skills that you had, that same math brain that you were really good at, or that same drawing that, those skills are still going to be there. And so now you're going to take the lessons that you learned from 10 to 20, and you need to learn how to apply them from 20 to 30. And if you learn how to apply them in that new phase, in that new cycle, then you are going to excel. Learn your lessons, right? And review your failures. So like, okay, I wasn't the best friend, or I wasn't, the nicest guy on the team there. Let me see if I could, fix that and apply it later on. And once you master that between your 20 and 30s, between your 30s and your 40s, now you have a family, perhaps, right? Now your world is expanding, right? And so that same habits, those same skills, those same attitudes, all of that is going to show up again in your 30s to your 40s. And if you did not learn between 10 and 20, if you didn't learn between 20 and 30, it is sure enough going to knock you upside your head between 30 and 40. And that's usually where people get to that whole midlife crisis thing. But if you're listening to this now, you're in high school, I might be able to save you that midlife crisis battle. I could save you a bit of struggle if you listen to me. You have skills, you have experiences, you have talent, you have attitudes, you have beliefs, you have all of those things right now. And you are tweaking them right now. So right now doesn't count. Have some grace on yourself. But you need to take your experiences and reapply them to your life cycles every 10 years. And that's just my perspective, right? That's not for sure, but it's going to repeat itself, right? Because once you get to 40 and 50, now you got these teenagers, right? Or now you got your parents who are older. Now you have a whole new world that you're working through. And if you didn't get a hold of those skills, if you didn't get a hold of those attitudes, if you didn't get a hold and understand the lessons in the last 3 cycles, they're going to show up again until you get it right. That is life. Same. And just to give it an example, I don't know if I'm taking up too much time. Let me know.
No, you're fine. You're perfect.
Okay, but prime example, my friends in high school, is that when you were in kindergarten 10 years ago, you're 15-ish, 10 years ago, you were in kindergarten. You were learning your ABCs and your 1, 2, 3s, right? And then over 10 years, you took those ABCs, you turned them into words. You took those words, you turned them into sentences. You took those sentences, you turned them into paragraphs. You took those paragraphs, you turned them into papers. You took those papers and turned them into books, right? But though it's the same 26 letters. They haven't changed. It's the same 26 letters, and all you're doing is rearranging them over and over and over again. You took those numbers and you made math. You took those numbers and you got paid. You took those numbers, right? And you made recipes and half a cup of flat, right? You took those numbers and all you're doing is taking those same basic numbers and you are reusing them and rearranging them over and over and over again. It's the same 10 numbers. They don't change. Mm-hmm. And that is what life cycle is about. You're just building on top of what is already your foundation. So you need to understand what your foundation is, understand your family dynamics, understand your dynamics with your friendships, understand when you have the quirks and the misunderstandings, and when you're helpful and when you're amazing and people tell you that. You need to understand that. And all you do is take that basic foundation, and every single life cycle, every single 10 years, you're just going to build on top of that and build on top of that and build on top of that. And next thing you know, you're doing calculus. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, you're writing a dissertation with the same alphabet and the same 1, 2, 3s, the same ABCs and the same 1, 2, 3s that have been here since the beginning of your existence. They have not changed, but you can do some great things when you understand how basic they are. And that's the same thing with your life and your skills and your personality and your experiences. And whatever it is, your talents, whatever you're able to do, to understand your ABCs, your one, two, threes, as far as your talents and your skills, and you build on top of those. The same cycle is going to repeat itself. The people who win this race are the ones who understand how to grow in their cycle. So that's been my biggest lesson.
That is awesome. That was so well said.
Thank you.
You just had, I wanted to get to this before we got off here, but you just had your debut album come out, I believe, last Friday, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Tell people the name of it so they can make sure to go stream it, buy it, whatever they need to do.
Absolutely. My debut album is called Too Much of a Woman, not to be confused with the single Too Much of a Woman featuring Jackie Benson, although you can go buy and stream that too, but it's all there. Too Much of a Woman, the album, 11 tracks. It's on all streaming platforms, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all of the things. And I definitely would appreciate the support and the follow on this journey.
And for everybody watching, I had the great honor and privilege of being stage manager when you played the CMA Spotlight stage last summer. And it caught my attention so much because you have this voice that is just so rich and pretty, and it just fills up a room. So I highly encourage everybody to go listen, give it a stream, buy the album, whatever, because you're amazing. And I expect you to go on to do big things.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Drew. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being a friend. And thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. And I appreciate you staying after school with Mr. Van Huss. It was great talking to you.
Nice talking to you too. Bye-bye.
See you later. Thank you.